So my name is Phyllis Penhallow, and I teach at the University of Rhode Island. So I'm in the early childhood program, and I always, it's also, early childhood in human development at URI. So we cover the lifespan, and I do academic advising. So students want to be a teacher, an early childhood teacher, I help them with advising, and I teach a couple classes a semester. And I do a little work for RIDE in the Early Learning Standards program, and then I do talks in the state. So that's my background. I have a son who's 13, a son who's 10. They were homeschooled up to all this point when they've just had their second year in public school. That's a whole nother topic. We could talk about public school, but and I'm from Charlestown, Rhode Island. Okay, so tonight we're talking about keeping children safe, how to be prepared versus paranoid. And I want to just tell you how I got interested in this. All my years of school, 6 years of education, and no one talks about this topic. It's just like a topic that people avoid. And as I start to work with families, the parents would start asking me, well, what do you do? What do you say to the kids? Well, how do we prepare our kids? And I would just be guessing or using things that I was taught, and I just started researching this. And then my brother had his first son, and it was my nephew, and I felt this sense of protection for my nephew. So again, we visited this topic again and doing more research. And then of course, when you have your own children, that sense of protection really takes over. So I've been really working on this topic. I'm going to be talking about two main books today. And everything that I'm going to say is in two handouts for you, so you don't have to write anything down. I'll go ahead and give you one of the handouts. So everything is here. So you can just, I thought it would be good for you to listen after a full day. You don't have to take notes. Just get all these passed around. If anybody comes in, you guys can help them find these. There you go. How are you? Good. Good. Here you go. So one of my goals for tonight is that I hope I get you enough interest that you will go home and read these books on your own. So we'll be referencing this book, Protecting the Gift by Gavin D. Becker. This book is on CD, or it's a book on tape, so those of you who don't have time to read, if you're in the car a lot, you can just have this book on the, in a CD. The other thing, if you have children in the car with you a lot, I probably wouldn't do that, because there are some scary stories in here. He uses the scary stories to teach us, but I think if a child, depending on the age, was listening to some of the stories, they could be scared. So if you're not in the car with children a lot, you can do that. This book is a must. It's called Child Lures. I have an outline for you with every lure that's in this book. This person is Ken Wooden. You probably know him. Ken Wooden is the person that has the two dogs. They're called Snowflake and Snow something, and he's been on Oprah Winfrey 2020, and he takes the dogs and he goes into a park, and the parents are in like a trailer and they're watching, and all the parents say, you will not get my child out of the park, you'll never get my child out of the park. And then one by one he gets all the kids to leave the park to help him find his missing dogs. Have you ever seen that clip on TV? It's a pretty popular clip. But he studied the mind of a sex offender. So after studying how they tick, he was able to write a book to help us teach our kids how to prevent some of the sex offenders that are out there. So those are two books. Again, the handouts I have for you are full of information, but I do want you, if in your spare time, to pick up these books at some time. And the references for those books are actually on the back of. Does yours have cultural? What's yours? Okay, so on the back of that, your last page, the back of mine, your last page. Do you have one that says references, the very last page?
Yes.
Okay, so if you see the annotated list, the one that says Protecting the Gift, and I gave you a little write-up, that's the book I'm talking about. And then the one on the end, The Child Lures, with the write-up. So those are the two main books that I would be talking about. Okay, how are you? Come on in. There's pizza coming, so when it comes, feel free to. All right, so we're going to talk about pedophilia, which is sexual desire in an adult for a child, and a pedophile is an adult who's sexually attracted to young children. So I'm going to give you some facts that are scary at first, but then we're going to quickly turn into how you cannot be fearful all the time and how we can prepare our kids for what's ahead. All right, so sex offenders reoffend. Like an adulterer or a murderer or armed robber, there's a high rate of reoffending. In fact, when a sex offender is caught, there's a chance that they have been doing this 35 times plus. So when you see on the news and they're like, I've never done this before, it's my first time, they're lying. It's probably 35 to 45 times before they get caught, besides all the times we don't even know when it's not reported. Serial sex offenders pose the greatest threat. However, they're rarely released from prison. So that is a good piece of information. Abduction, rape, and killing of children by strangers is very rare. So I want you to realize that. It's rare that a child is killed by a stranger, abducted by a stranger, who mostly takes children when we hear about these child abuse cases. It's someone that they know. So I want you just to realize it's a rare situation. There's tons of media coverage when it happens. The media is all over it, making us feel like it's huger and it's bigger. It overestimates the problem. The tragic results of these overestimating sex offenders is that we're distracted from a very great threat to our children, which is parental abuse and neglect, which is a huge problem. So all this hype and media cover of someone stranger taking your child, which is rare, maybe 200 in the US in a year, it happens, but it's rare, takes over the real problem. Some kids are being abused by the hands of their family and people that they know at home. When you hear about a child molester, you have to get your facts straight. I know in our town, our little town, there was a child molester, and the mothers were like, oh no, there's this child molester in the neighborhood, and who is this guy? And they're all nervous about their kids playing in the neighborhood. But upon investigation, it was a 21-year-old man who was dating a 15-year-old girl. And she was mad at him, so she reported him, and he was in trouble. Now, I'm not saying it's okay for the 21-year-old to be dating the 15-year-old, but this man was hardly looking for a 5-year-old boy. He wasn't, there was no need for all the mothers to panic of their kids playing outside. So sometimes you have to divulge into the facts and into really what's going on, because the stories, like I said, they're just kind of, it's a hot topic when there's been a child molester, and it just kind of spreads. Yes.
I got a report from the police saying that there's a sexual offender in the neighborhood too that was released from prison, blah, blah, and he's in my neighborhood. And I thought, what do I do with this information then?
Right,
so
I know.
How do I know if it was a case like you were saying?
Okay, I hounded the police station. Okay. I called, I asked. I just asked, I talked to people, I found someone who knew the family and knew the mother, so I got more information. But the newspaper doesn't always put the information there, so you have to investigate further.
What about the report from the police?
Do they tell you anything about it?
They send it to everybody in the neighborhood, and where the person lives, and well, I don't know the facts, as you say.
You don't know the offense, right, and they probably won't publish that. You can call and ask.
Okay.
And see if they'll tell you more. But the basic strategies we talked about tonight will help you in that situation. 95% of the victims, they know their perpetrator. Let's see. The profile of a sex offender, here's the hard thing. There's no tidy criminal profile. It can be a typical person, a typical normal person. It could be a pillar of the community. It's all walks of life, married, single, professional, blue collar, young, retired, different professions, attorneys, farmers, policemen, bartenders, dentists, machinists, auditor, electrician, school bus, engineer. So we can't come up with this little profile. Some are attracted to young children, some are attracted to older children, some are attracted to boys, some are attracted to girls. And often they're looking for pre-adolescent, like a pre-adolescent time, like this age of kind of innocence. It's a sickness. There's no discriminating against race, class, or age, no bounds, and it infiltrates every segment of society. There's some pedophile organizations too. They're very disturbing. There's small groups of these kind of highly organized child molester operations. They're worldwide. The internet opened up huge doors. I mean, loving the internet because they can just talk worldwide now, and just their access is huge now. One of the many disturbing things about these groups is that they claim genuine concern from the welfare of children. They believe that sex with children is harmless. They feel it's healthy. They've twisted it so that it's kind of healthy. It's good for children that we kind of help them out and show them the ropes early on. The actual members in the organizations is unknown. because many people don't join, you know, only the bravest of them will actually put their name out there. One's called the Rene Guion Society, one's called the NAMBLA, it's called the North American Man-Boy Love Association. It's an awful website. They have Lures of the Month. They have techniques how to get children, and they publish this and they talk about it. There's one column.
It's legal for them to put this stuff on the internet.
Yes.
So
it's so disturbing. Well, luckily a lot of the police stations now have these crimes against children. You know, it's a separate section of a police station. So we have police officers that just deal with this. So they're constantly involved and they're networking. And some of them have joined these groups. And so we've been able to really infiltrate some of these groups. But they're huge. So this one column. One hint I'll give you, they talk about things like the soap crayons. So this one website said, oh, soap crayons are great. Children practically undress themselves. They'll do anything to get in the tub. So they like publish this and they advertise these things. Let's see. They have conferences, online, internet services. So I just want you to know that is out there. You know, those are one of the disturbing facts that we find. The good news and all the scary stuff that I've just told you is that most people are good. Most people do not hurt children. An overwhelming majority of children live in homes free of sexual abuse. And as we teach children to protect themselves from a moving car, you have to teach them to protect themselves from dangerous people. A great analogy we can use is that people are like the weather. Sometimes the weather is great and fine, but sometimes the weather can be dangerous. That's a great analogy considering the age of your children, to use kind of that weather as an example. There's all kinds of facts out there. There's the Department of Justice, the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, the National Center for Missing and Exploiting Children. All kind of facts about how many predators there are and what states they live in. And I think it's valuable information, but the most important thing is, what are we going to do? So after this fearful data that we just talked about, now let's talk about, like, what do we tell our kids to keep them safe? All right, let me give you this handout. If you want to get some food, you can go do that. There you go. All right, so let's talk about some myths that we probably were raised with. All right, how many of you were raised with never talk to strangers? My father said that all the time. All right, that's not helpful. Because if you're lost, you have to find a stranger that will help you. It's not stranger, it's strangeness. It's the person who makes you feel strange. It's when your intuition is that gut is telling you something's wrong, something's wrong. We're innately given that intuition. You have to talk about it with our children. Sometimes we kind of, dismiss it or we ignore it. And sometimes they say women are taught to dismiss it more. But we have to talk about it with our children. I'll give you an example. We were in a store called Rojack's in South County. And there was a man in the store, and he was odd. I can't tell you why. All I can tell you is I wanted nothing to do with this person. It was strange and odd. My children have like fiery hair. It's like red and blonde, and one's super curly, one's straight. So wherever we go, people will say, oh, their hair. This is a comment. So we're walking in the store, and he says, oh, look at their hair. They're so cute. Okay, my 4-year-old who was standing next to me, guess what he does in like half a second? Right by my side, and like very quickly. And then the little one who's in the seat kind of grabbed my arm. So already this intuition is at work. So the man, just smile at the man, then we keep going. So we get like 3 aisles down, and I notice he has like one thing in his cart. And he starts talking to us again, like now we're friends because we met like in the first aisle. Oh, there you are, nice to see you again. And I'm thinking, oh, this is just strange. So then I just kind of ignore him, keep going. Now meanwhile, unfortunately for him, I had read all this information. And he's doing exactly what the book says. Like carbon copy. So finally, we get to like the 3rd aisle, and there's just a few things in his cart, and he was asking me what the kids' names were. So I said, I want you to stop talking to us. We don't want to talk to you anymore. So he said exactly what the book said. He's like, you're so mean, you're so rude, I'm just trying to be nice to you. Now I'm not saying he was going to try to take the boys from me, but I wasn't going to wait around to see. Now here's the thing, when we got into the car, I had to cement that intuition with the oldest. The other one was too small. He was just under 1. So I said, I'm buckling Joseph in the car, and I said, hey Joe, what'd you think of the man in the store? There was other men in the store. Do you think I had to tell him what man I was talking about? Nope. And he goes, oh, he was yuck. I said, yep. yuck. You don't have to go into a dissertation. You don't have to go into a 5-page seminar with them. You just cement that the intuition was correct. So that's that one moment in time. That was the teaching lesson, and you just wait for the next opportunity. So, you know, tonight, don't go home and wake up your kids and start telling them all the information. It's a process, and it goes over time, and you wait for, unfortunately, there's plenty of opportunities to teach. All right, so never talk to strangers doesn't work. If you're ever lost, go to a policeman. That's not going to help you either. I mean, what are the chances of you being lost and a policeman is right there? Also, in today's world, on the internet or on eBay, you can buy a uniform. You can just buy it. I don't go to the mall often, but last time I was there, I saw a, I guess he was like a mall security person. And I'm looking at his uniform, and I'm thinking, is he I don't really know what he is. I had to like really look, and I'm thinking a child is supposed to know decipher who the person is in a uniform. Here's another myth. If you're in trouble, go to the nearest police station. Now, if you're 16 and you're driving a car, and I mean, really, what are the chances again that the police station is where you need to be? So again, these are myths that have come from parents' love to help and protect, but they don't give enough information. Here's another one. No place is safe. I mean, talk about hopeless. You know, we can't teach our children that no place is safe. You always need mommy and daddy around. That's not going to help them either. Any combination of the following things. Don't wander off in public. What if someone takes you? What if I can't find you? There's bad people out there. Or here's my favorite. I just heard this the other day. What if someone takes you away from mommy and daddy and then we'll never see you again? And like you plead to the 4-year-old. This is not helping them. This is just this is your fears coming out to the child. So they're culturally entrenched rules. They do exist, but they don't work. So let's talk about what does work. All right, you're the adult. We have to keep the kids safe. So I'm following along, starting number 2. I'll skip a little bit, but you have everything that I'm going to say is on here. We know that children and parents feel safer with some techniques. There's studies where they take teenagers and they show them videos of how to protect themselves, and the parents are all worried that the kids will be more afraid once they watch the video, but they're not. After they watch the video, even if they're a little bit afraid during the video, they always feel better, and they feel like, I know there's something I can do in case I ever got myself into trouble, or trouble ever found me. So it's our job to teach these safety strategies. The first one is your intuition. It's your personal siren. Rely heavily on your parental intuition. So what does the intuition look like? Tell me, what does that look like to you guys? What's that intuition?
Just gut feeling.
It's a gut feeling. All right, what else can it possibly look like? A nagging thought. Persistent thoughts, anxiety, curiosity, hunches, doubt, suspicion, apprehension, fear. All this stuff is kind of that instinct. So intuition about your children is always right in 2 ways. It's always based on something, and it always has your child's best interest at heart. So you have to remember that. Rely heavily on your parental instincts. I met a woman, and she was from Delhi, India, and she was living in America, and she feels like our culture lets kids sleep over at each other's houses too much and too early. She kind of pulled me aside. I personally agree with her. I'm one of 8. We slept nowhere, and nobody called my mother up and said, bring your 8 kids over. You know, we kind of stayed home all the time. So I was raised that way. I don't know if anyone feels that way. 12-year-olds sleeping over, 9-year-olds sleeping over, even younger. So this woman said to me, I don't know her friends, I don't know the families, and I don't want to do it. And I said, well, then don't. And there's one family in particular. It was the stepbrother who she didn't like, and she didn't like any of the stepbrother's friends. And when her daughter was sleeping over, she didn't want her there. So I said, go with your gut and just say no. And she's like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, here's the, if you feel that strongly about it, and there are families that you know, and there's relatives, and I know my kids can sleep over their auntie's house, the people that we know well. Okay, if your children are lost, I know there's 2 men in here, but we have to teach them to find a woman if they're lost. Predators are 98% men. If a woman is involved in child molestation, it's usually in connection in a cultish situation where a man is involved. I'm thinking of Elizabeth Smart. Remember Elizabeth Smart? She was taken from her house, her bedroom. There was a woman involved, but it was almost this cultish situation. I know recently a woman was arrested. She was like 35 and the boyfriend was like 15 and they had like 3 kids together. Did you guys hear that on the news? It was just on the news like last week. So she would be she's arrested for child molestation because she's 35 and he's 15. So it's mostly men. So when you tell your children, if you are lost, find a woman, you are reducing a risk by a lot. I know when I first went to a seminar, I talked about this, and they said that, and my husband's kind of looking at me, and after the talk, I said, well, Tom, what are you going to tell the boys? He's like, I'm telling the boys to find a woman. So most of the men agree. Now, these 2 nice gentlemen here, I'm sure it would be a child's good luck to be lost, and you guys would help them get home, but you just don't know. So it's safe. And they say a mommy. There's an instinct with a mother. A mother will not, I'm not saying some men won't do that. I know personally my husband would do that, and I know other men that would, but I also know men that wouldn't. But a mother is likely to get that child to the mother. Like I'd be late for work, I would stop whatever I was doing for a lost child to make sure, and I'm sure many of you agree. And they say that sometimes a man might, get them to some help and not do the complete follow through. So it's a mother, a woman with children. I'll tell you a story about my brother. I have a brother, Joe, and Joe's a runner, and he was running after school hours, and he sees a bus. And off the bus comes a girl about 14, and she's, it's getting cold outside, but she has like athletic clothes on, so maybe she was staying after for a sport or something. Book bag, candy, like she was selling candy, and she gets off the bus stop and she's just like lost, and she's got these tears in her eyes. So my brother's jogging by, my brother's a single guy, and he says to himself, don't stop me. He does not want to get involved. All he wants to do is continue on this run that he's having. So of course, how are you? So cute baby. So he stops her. And he's like, okay. And she's like, this is not my stop. I don't know where I am. I got off at the wrong stop. So there was a bike shop close by. So my brother knows the guys in the bike shop. So he's like, I'm going to take her to the bike shop. And then she could like call her mother or something. So he walks over to the bike shop with her. And she's like telling what road she lives on. And she was fairly close, which we'll get back to that. But she was 14. She was only like 3 blocks away and had no idea where she was. So she needed some more skills. Maybe her parents work or her mother works. That's fine, but you need the skills of knowing where you are. I mean, 3 blocks away at 14, she should have had some idea where she was, especially if she's coming home alone all the time. So anyway, there's another guy in the shop, and the guy says, oh, I know where she lives. I'll take her home. So now my brother's thinking, well, I can't really let her go with him because I don't know who this guy is. So both my brother and this guy get in the car, and she gets in the car. Who wants to guess? What is she doing in the car when she's driving with them? You want to guess? She's hysterical. My brother said she was like so scared with these 2 men in the car. So she got in the car. So that's a whole nother thing that we have to talk about. They dropped her off. My brother said the car was not even stopped, and she was out the door, like, get me out of here. And then my brother did another mistake. He got out there because he didn't know the guy, and he continued with his run. So there's lots of mistakes there. What should have they done? What should my brother have done when he saw her upset? I mean, the bike shop was fine. It's public. Yeah, she couldn't reach her mother. She called her mother and couldn't reach her mom. Just call the police and just get it out of your hands. And definitely don't let her go in the car. And it was a perfectly nice gentleman that was just dropping her off. But, she didn't know the situation. So again, we teach our children, you seek the assistance of a woman, preferably a woman with children. If you're lost, you're in danger. You should stay where you are. Tell your children when you're lost, stay where you are. Don't start walking around. This is how kids get in trouble. They leave the spot. If they're lost, they have to stay where they are. Because what will you do? You go back to the last spot. This is something you can practice with your kids. For them to get good at this, you have to practice. So for example, we were at the Big Apple Circus. It's in Charlestown. So we're waiting for my sister. It's a big crowd. So it was a perfect opportunity. So I say to the boys, if you were lost, what would you do? And I wait for them to pick out somebody. So, my son, he picked out, the first time we did this, I said, Joe, pretend you're lost and find somebody to ask for help. So he found this woman, there was like 7 kids around her. I'm like, all right, Joe, that's the way to go. So you have to do it and practice. My kids, if I practice with them, they laugh and they tease because it's funny, but they're practicing. I had a babysitter. She was 14. She was my mother's helper for a while, but as she was getting older, she started to watch the kids by myself. And we'd always do these practice things because my husband works for himself and people stop at the house and drop things off. So we'd play these little games. I would leave and I'd come back and I'd say, this is for Tom. Can you open the door? And then she would practice what they would do. And they would laugh because they knew it was me, but they were practicing. And the days I forgot to do that, she'd say to me, Shouldn't we do a practice before you go? So they really like to practice. So practice, practice, practice. And ask your kids, you know, what would they do? Who would they pick? If your children are lost, they should stay where they are, seek the assistance of a woman, and assure them, we're looking for you. We're going to be looking for you. Okay, another thing, if someone tells your children not to yell, they must yell. When someone tells your child not to yell, they must yell. When someone tells their child not to tell, they must tell. So you're just teaching them that a molester, it's illegal, they will get arrested, they'll be in trouble, that's why they're trying to keep the secret. You have to talk about the body in real parts. And I know it's uncomfortable to mention body parts, but you have to use real body parts with children. I've seen the most uncreative parents come up with these creative terms to make up body parts because they don't want to talk about it. But I know my parents are older, like 85 and 80. They think it's horrendous if you say an actual body part. It's just a generational thing. But when I was working in Providence, we had a couple of kids that were being molested, and one little girl in particular, she was describing very clearly what her mother's boyfriend was doing to her. It was quite clear what he was doing to her. But she wasn't using terms, she was using made up terms. And it put her testimony in a gray. And so it's just a good thing, just teach them the body parts so that they can talk about it if they ever needed to. We have to teach our children that they should never go to another location. Never move. What is the person trying to do to you to move you? When a predator wants to move you or a molester wants to move you, where are they going to take you? Well, they don't want anyone to see, so they have to move you. So they should never, ever go to another location. I tease my kids now, take the bullet wound, take the knife stabbing, you take whatever that person gives you, but do not go. I'd rather have you with an arm cut than no one can find you. They can never, never go. Never get into a car unless you say so. If a child's home alone, keep the doors locked, and they can say, you know, my dad's in the shower, my mom's doing laundry, if a phone call, just, you know, that's kind of a lie that they can say. They should not play in isolated areas, not near deserted parks or buildings. Don't take shortcuts. I know growing up, some of you are probably like me, there was more kids in the neighborhood, so when you were walking around, were you mostly in groups? Like, we just moved in groups. And then, like, Mrs. Parenti knew my mother, and, you know, Mrs. Daly across the street, like, we knew each other more. So we don't have that as much right now. I don't know what your neighborhood's like, but parents are working more, kids are in organized sports, or they're being sent to ballet class or dance class. So we don't have that community that we had years ago. So we've lost a lot of this connectedness. There are some communities still out there, but that community of everybody knowing each other and staying together. A predator doesn't want 5 kids. They can't get the kid alone. They're very into secrecy. So that's what we have to watch for. So they want to, you know, they stay away from groups. A predator also, we say the term predator because they wait. Do you remember the case? Her name was Carly Bruscia. She was in Florida, and she was taken behind a car wash. And the person, they have it all on tape. She was coming home, she cut through a shortcut that she doesn't usually take, and this guy was waiting. Well, if you look at the tapes, they found that he was there for weeks and weeks. He didn't care who it was. He wasn't waiting for her. What was he waiting for? Anybody who would go. It was the opportunity. So if 10 other kids could have went, a group of 5 could have went, he would have ignored them. He's looking for the one. And he used, we're going to talk about all the lures that predators use. He used an emergency lure with her. You have to come with me. And she's like, okay, okay. And he said something about, I think her parents were hurt. So she just went with them. And of course he raped and killed her. Okay, we have to teach them that molestation is against the law. Molesters know this is against the law. And if they report the abuse, they can help other kids. So teach us the children. How are you?
How you doing?
There's the handout right there. How are you? Now keep in mind, I know I'm saying scary things, but the theme of this talk is you don't want to scare children behind the realities of life. Remember, most people are good. Most people will help. But there are people that they have to watch for. People are like the weather. Sometimes it's good and safe, and sometimes it's bad and not so safe. All right, so how do you teach these strategies to kids? Too much information is going to overwhelm them. So you take it in pieces. As things happen in society, as things happen on the news, use those opportunities to use them as learning opportunities. Practice with them. So it's kind of this ongoing theme of your parenting. Now my kids are 13 and 10 now, so I talk to them a lot differently than they were 5 and 4. When my son was 5 and I said, you know, if we said someone's going to take you, he'd say, I'll just get them with my sword. I mean, they don't understand at that age. So, you know, you have to change, you know, you have to explain and change as they change. You understand your children, their intellectual abilities, their emotional abilities, so you have to be a gauge of what they can know when. It's important to know that. You have to be aware, first of all, you have to rely on your intuition. You attend lectures and discussions just like you're doing. I'm going to highly recommend this book. This book, you have the reference for this on the back of your page. This book is a workbook. And you would actually talk with your child through this book. It's in chapters. You can do one page at a time. There's a section for the child to read, and there's a section for you to read. And it goes over the lure, and it goes over what you can do to fight the lure. And I'll read you some excerpts from that book in a second. For young children, they're limited in their ability to think logically. Young children focus on how things look. How things look trumps the logic. So for example, if I had 2 balls of Play-Doh here and I said to a child, are they the same amount and they were even sizes, the kids would say yes. If I took one and rolled one out to be like a long snake and I said to them, do they have the same amount? They would say no. Which one has more? They would say the one that looks longer, even though I took nothing away and added nothing, because it's an age thing. How something looks takes over their logic. So with young children, you have to remember that. So for them, if I said to them, what's a scary person that's going to hurt you, what image do they have of like a person to be worried about? What do they think of? Scary, a monster. And what we know about child predators, they're actually quite nice. Because one of their tools is this kindness. So it's not the person that's going to be mean or scary to them, it's the person that's going to be really nice, that's trying to get access. So with young children, they perceive stranger to be the scary person, and they struggle with knowing and really knowing. For example, we had this neighbor that was only living there for a little bit, and I thought he was odd, but I wasn't worried about him. Like, I didn't have a bad instinct about him, but he kind of was odd. And we kind of knew him because we would wave to him, and my husband would talk to him, but we didn't have much interaction with him. And so one day, I was walking with my kids, we were going past his house, and he waved to us, and I said to my youngest, I said, James, if this man, if he invited you to inside the house, would you go? And he's like, well, yeah, Mom, because we know him. So of course, James sees my face. I'm like, and he's like, oh, no, 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 that was not, you know, like he knew that wasn't the right thing to say. But I could see he struggled with knowing him because we know him, but we don't really know him. So we use analogies of good friends. We have a good friend, the Golis family. So I say, well, James, we don't know him like we know the Golis family. Like we know their mother, we know their grandparents, we know where they live, we know all the kids. Or I compare it to relatives. So you have to talk to your children to establish really knowing somebody and that kind of just know. Because kids are innocent, and so they just say, oh, I know who that is. That person's okay. Role play with your children. Act like a stranger and see how they react. And then teach them the proper way. We had in my house. My house is like a big backyard, and it has it's close to the road. It's an older house. So one day my family was over, and they were all in the back. So all the uncles and the aunties are in the back, and the kids are playing on the side of the house. So it's 2 5-year-olds and like a 6-year-old, and I had to walk in the front, and I said, oh, here's such an opportunity for me to just see what they do. So my niece, the girl, the 6-year-old, she had this new pink sweater that her grandmother had made her. So I'm like, all right. So I walk by and I say, hey, I love your sweater. Could you come over so I could look at your sweater? And now we had trained and practiced her, and she's like, no! And she grabbed her 2 cousins and she like ran with them. So I said to her, that was great, Camille. But what I noticed was she kind of went to the front of the house. And so I just talked to her. I said, Camille, I said, you know what, you ran the front of the house. I said, what would you do next time? She's like, oh, I really should have went to the back, because all her aunts and uncles. So that practicing and that role play, and you don't penalize them, or it's just that constant conversation. But when you practice, you work out some of those little details so that they have them later. My brother-in-law came to this talk, and one of the things is to teach the kids to scream. Like if you're being taken, you need to scream, not a little scream. You need a belly scream. So they were in a parking lot waiting for somewhere, and so he had the windows rolled curled up. And he's like, Camille, I want you to scream. So she screamed. He's like, no, I mean really scream. So he had her give this blood-curdling scream. He's like, yes, that's what I want you to do if you're taken. So it's kind of this, and they do feel better when they practice. They really do. At first it's kind of scary, and again, my nephews now, they think I'm the crazy auntie, that's playing these games with them, but they do, and they've said to me before, will you do another one? Will you give me another one? So they want to practice. So I've looked at, and I'll give you the lures, so I've used the lures as my basis to practice. Okay, if we expect our kids to do these things, practice with them. Yeah.
Practicing as, so she's 6, the idea that you scream when someone tries to take you.
Yeah, that was a separate incident, but yeah, it's the same thing. You would scream if someone's going to take you.
Right, no, but you're teaching them at 6 years old. You're teaching her.
I would even go younger, yeah. I mean, if your child can do that, that's fine. And they could say, this is not my mommy. You can teach them to say things like that. Again, use your gauge. One mother I knew was talking about it with her daughter, but her daughter was getting really scared. So I just told her to stop. Just stop. Just give her a break from it, because I guess the way it was being presented was too scary. Now I know for my kids, I've been doing it so long that it's dialogue. So you want to get to that point where we don't have to be. It's not a quiet, nervous conversation. This is the dialogue that we have, routine dialogue. Fairy tales are great. There's always a tricky stranger in a character. So in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, who's the tricky stranger? The witch. So I don't have any research on this particular one. This is just something I've come up with, but I find it's been really handy, and I've done it with other children too. I talk about strangers in terms of there's the kind stranger, there's a mean stranger, and then there's the tricky stranger. So a kind stranger is someone you just meet that seems kind, and most people are like that. The mean stranger is that person that you meet right off the bat and is just mean. And then there's that tricky person. So we teach our kids, when you're little, I'm going to help you with the tricky strangers. But when you're older, you will know the tricky strangers on your own. You can't let your kids think they need you for the rest of their life to help them. As they get older, they're going to know who the tricky strangers are. So I would use the fairy tales and say, or any book that you have, and say, oh, that was really tricky. Do you see how she acted nice? But really, she wanted something else. So just kind of get that, going in their conversation. Use the word instinct. Your kids might not understand instinct, but you're getting that word going. We rely heavily on our instincts. Okay, there's something called the ACE card, and this is the abductor or the predator wants the ACE card. The ACE card is access, coverage, and escape. They want access to your kids, they want coverage so no one sees them take your kid, and they need the escape. So if you hold the ACE card, if you're somewhere else in public, then you have the ACE card. You don't want to give up your ACE card, your access, your coverage, and your escape. So keeping your child close to you, placing yourself between your child and anything that can lead away from public view. Again, that's when you're in a public place and you're feeling worried about it. There are lots of books for young children, but I would just caution you on some of them. Some of them are pretty bad. Here's 2 really bad ones I thought I brought. This one's called Lost, and this bear, the child's lost, so then the bear finds them, the bear helps the child get home, and then the bear's sad because he's lost, and the child takes the bear back in the woods. So just ask yourself, what is that? This doesn't teach children anything, so don't buy this stuff. I even hated paying the 50 cents for this book to show it to you. Okay, never talk to strangers. Well, remember, it's strangeness. It's not the stranger, because actually a stranger is going to help your child get where they need to go. It's the strangeness of a person. It's not the stranger. So be careful on the books you choose. I have a series of books to recommend to you. They do have a Christian edge to them, so if that was something that would bother you, I'm sorry about that, but I've really, really searched and looked. And it's called the Yell and Tell series, and it's by, I gave you the reference for it on the back, it's by Debbie Pearl, and I felt like she did a really excellent job of getting to what we're needing to teach our children. And there's probably some good ones that I've missed, yes. You can order them online, and if you look on your last page of your reference, it is the third one from the bottom. It says Pearl, Debbie Pearl. Okay. And her books are called Yell and Tell. She has one for girls and one for boys. Okay. And I found them to be based on what we're talking about today. Books for adults. This one's called Raising Safe Kids in an Unsafe World. There was like 25 books like this. I'm not saying it's all bad, but this book talks about all the things you can do, like get a chip for your child's mouth and to get IDs. Well, if the police are coming to your house asking for your child's DNA or tooth, things are looking pretty bad for you. So this stuff, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm saying it won't help, but this isn't like that one-on-one dialogue that you need to have with your children, teaching them the skills to what to do when you're lost and how to keep yourself out of danger. It's not going to be anything that you buy for them. You could have a camera on them all day. Nothing is going to be that one-on-one instinct and intuition that you help them, that they can walk around with and take wherever they are. So I would just really recommend this Protecting the Gift book, which is on your sheet, and this Child Lure book. Okay, a few other things before we get into the lures. Okay, with teenagers, current events. When something really happens, in Charahoe, we had a soccer coach that was sending inappropriate sexual texts to one of the soccer players. So he got caught. So I just used that with my 13-year-old. What a great opportunity for us to talk about it. So we just talked about what he said, and I gave him more details. And if he was 5 or 6, I certainly wouldn't get into details with him. But he was curious, and what the family did was perfect. The text got sent. The boy showed his father. The father called the police. The police went undercover, acted like they were the boy, and they got him. So I talked to, when your kids are older, you can use current events, and unfortunately, there's many current events that we can use. Instinct, intuition. When your children are feeling uneasy with someone, they need to look at that and see what's going on. With older kids, the Child Lure book, you can do. My son's 13, actually getting ready for this talk. I said it's probably time that I go over this book with him, because I really haven't gone page to page with him. So it's time to do that, and I think a lot of it he'll know, but it's just reinforcing it. And there's a video, it's called Give Your Kids a Fighting Chance, and it's for older kids. It probably would scare little kids, but they have kids in like the trunk of the car, and they kick out the light. They have, this video puts kids in situations and what they would do to get out of it. Again, it's for older kids. And watch it first to make sure you're okay with it. But I thought it was good. Give Your Kids a Fighting Chance. It's endorsed by Kids Fighting Chance. And it teaches kids from 7 to 18 how to escape from an attacker. And they have studies of the kids watching it before and after. And they all feel better that if something happens to me, I don't want anything to happen to me, but if something happens to me, I feel like I'm not just going to be the sitting duck, waiting for someone to rescue me. All right, on page 5, there's something called, it's page 5, it's Roman numeral 5. What children should know before they're left alone in public. Do you see that page? This is a test of 12. If your children can do these 12 things, you can feel confident that you've taught them well, and you've gone over all this with them, and they understand, and it's time for them to be in public by themselves. Okay, so how about the first one? Anyone volunteer to read the first one? Any volunteers?
I'm sorry.
You want to read the first one? Yeah.
Know how to honor feelings if someone makes them uncomfortable.
Okay, so acknowledge something makes me feel uncomfortable. All right, 2. Anyone else?
They know that it is okay to rebuff and defy adults.
All right, now do you want your children to respect adults? I certainly do, but they have to know that they have to be able to say no to an adult. And this is what we talk to children who have been abused, and they say, well, it was my mother's friend and I didn't really want to say anything. So they have to know, if you're feeling that, you have to, mom and dad say it's okay for you to say no to that person, or let me ask my mother and my father. Okay, 3. Anybody?
They know it is okay to be assertive.
Okay, 4.
They know how to ask for assistance or help.
Go to a woman for assistance, a mother. 5.
They know how to choose whom to ask for help.
Yeah. 6.
They are able to describe peril.
Yes, we didn't talk too much about this one, but the older kids, I'm in the mall, I'm lost. Like, they need some facts. You have to teach them to be able to just give a few facts so the person helping them can get them to safety quick. 7.
They know it is okay to strike and even injure someone if they feel they are in danger.
Yeah, they have to be able to do this.
I
And
just want to ask
Yes.
at this point, I would have there something, if your kids just keep fighting or screaming, would that cause them to act violently?
the person who's going to hurt them?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. The person's trying to take them to do something violent to them. So I would take the risk of the kicking, the fighting, biting. I've told my kids, you do everything, anything that you need to do. Well, if they feel like if they feel like someone's trying to take them, yeah, I would. 8.
They know it is okay to make noise and run.
9.
They know to yell, "This is not my father," if someone tries to abduct them.
And 10.
They know that if someone tells them not to yell, then yell, and if someone tells them not to tell, then tell.
And you could start that one right away, even with your littlest kids. 11.
They know not to go out of public view with someone who tries to persuade them.
Never leave the spot. Never leave the spot. And then 12.
You, the parents, are strong enough to hear about any experience they've had, no matter how unpleasant.
When they interview children, some children are afraid to tell their parents because their parents are going to be so upset or sad. So you have to let your children know, no matter what you tell me, we can help you. I can take it. I can take it. I know my face, like I think my husband always says, by your facial expressions, they can tell, and they like read my facial expressions. So I always just try, just give me the information. I can take it, and I will help you. I had a mother who thought her child was being abused. I was working in Providence at the time, and so she was telling us things that her daughter was doing to herself in the bathtub, which would lead us to believe that she was getting this behavior from someone. And the mother, when she first saw it, she was so horrified by what she saw that when she talked to her daughter wouldn't say anything to her. And so this mother, I just give her so much respect for, we had talked to her and we talked about how to talk to her daughter, and she just really had to, because she just wanted to scream, she was so hurt and upset, and she really just calmly talked to her daughter, and she got her daughter to tell her so much more that she needed to tell, but just by like a face that, and you can imagine how hard that was. She just wanted to say, who is it? And but it took time for all that to come out. So you have to let your kids know that we can take it. Even though it's not what we want to hear, we can take it and that we can help you. So this is kind of your curriculum for your children. All right, so does anyone have any questions right now before we get into like the specific lures that people use? Anyone have any examples to share? Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yep.
I have a 2-year-old.
Yes.
So I'm trying to.
They're small.
I'm trying to make this applicable to him. And what is your suggestion as far as how old they should be when I know it's probably never too early, but what are your thoughts about that?
Okay, well it's a boy?
Yes.
Just 2. So I would just say things like stay close to mommy, like if you're in a place that is really busy. I would wait till you have some understanding, like how does he have a lot of language right now?
Yes.
Does he understand?
Yes.
Okay, then I think you can probably talk to him about if someone told you not to yell. You look at their face.
He has language and it's all developing, but at the same time, he's 2. So I mean,
Right.
so much of this is so abstract.
And he's probably so protected that he's not in these situations where he would.
Oh yeah, because I am paranoid.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm here.
Right. Well, I mean, it's still a little young, but if an opportunity came up, I would just start. Like say you can throw in the word instinct. Say you're reading a book. Just start with the books. Reading a book with him, and if something comes up in the book, you can make up a story. Say, oh, what would you do? Just start asking questions like that from books. So stick with concrete. So don't move to the abstract. Stick with the concrete. And kids don't go from concrete to abstract till age 7 anyway, so there's time there. So the age of 7, we call that the age of reason. So I would read storybooks, do the fairy tales. You can definitely introduce tricky and kind and mean. But when my sons were little, we were at the post office and this man held the door for us, and I'm like, oh, that was such a kind stranger. So I would like throw out those terms. So just use your opportunities to throw out terms. No long dissertations. Try to stop yourself from getting into these long conversations with the little ones. Keep it short. Everyday experiences, fairy tales, books. I don't know if that answers, but. All right, so any other questions or comments or stories that you want to, yeah.
I guess I've used the example, so my son's 8, that if something was happening and someone, I guess trying to get at that if someone is trying to make you promise not to tell.
Yes.
That you don't have to tell them that you're going to tell me.
Right.
that kind of thing. I
Right.
was just thinking that they're in more danger if he says, no, I'm going to tell my mommy.
Right. So when someone tells you not to tell, and tell you. We'll get into this here, but another thing I just love is a good secret and a bad secret. So a good secret is one that's going to get told. Birthday present for mommy, a surprise. A bad secret is the ones they tell you never to tell. That alone had such impact on my kids when they were even 4 and 5. Like a bell went off to them, like, oh, a good secret eventually gets to tell. A bad secret is when you're told never, ever, ever, ever to tell. So we teach our kids, when someone tells you never, never, never to tell the secret, tell. Like, so we got to train them to do the opposite of what the person's telling them. The person doesn't want you to tell because they're going to get in trouble and they're going to get arrested. That is why they don't want you to tell. All right, so there's 15 very common lures that abductors use. And there are probably many more, but they're all under this realm of the 15. And so I'm going to, they're in this book right here, but I have a handout for you with all of them. And we'll just talk about a few of them, and I'll give you some examples. Okay, so here's the lures. There you go. And I'll pass the rest of these.
Thank you.
Okay. The first one is the affection lure. And I just want to make sure you understand this, you remember this. There's a lot of curriculums out there about good touches and bad touches and stranger danger. And I know they have good intentions, but it's not enough information. The term real love and fake love are better than the good touch, bad touch. So real love is the love you have for your children. I want what's best for you. My decisions are to help you. I'll care for you your whole life. That's like that real love. And then fake love is temporary, or it's just a quick feeling. And over time, that's a concept that you can teach them. So someone who has great affection for them quickly, fake love is hurting, is kind of that romantic love, or when someone hurts you, that's fake love. So I would stay away from bad touch and good touch and stick to the real love and the fake love. And any opportunity you have an example. So you have a little one, you're reading a book, oh, that's real love. Just throw that out. And then over time, as you keep saying it. The safest children are the ones who know they can talk to their parents. If an adult or older child tries to touch the private parts of your body, parts covered by your bathing suit, it's perfect for children. The parts covered by your bathing suit, and we say private, just be really clear. So if you're a boy, it's the trunks, and if it's your girl, it's the bathing suit. So that's very concrete for small children. Let me read to you. This is a letter that so this person studied the mind of the criminals to help us figure out how to protect ourselves for them. So this is a letter that was written by one of the molesters to this man. And he wrote, and then he had said to him, well, this is what I think you should send to the parents. It says, "Dear parents, I'm a pedophile. That's a child molester to the layman. I'm writing to let you know I will soon be molesting your child. Oh, you don't think so? Well, let me tell you how easy it is. When you don't listen to what your child has to say and regard it as unimportant, childish chatter, you're sending your child to me. I have ears to hear all he or she has to say. When you scold your child or belittle your child in front of his or her friends, you're sending your child to me, because I can dry his or her tears. When you don't cuddle your child on your lap or give him or her hugs, you're sending your child to me. My lap is big enough to hold any child, and I have endless amounts of hugs. When you don't give your child praise, you're sending your child to me. I have an ample supply of attention and affection to give. Who am I, you ask? I could be your next door neighbor, your coworker, your child's teacher, your scout leader. You could know me and you may not know me, but your child will know me. I'm the nice man who's giving your child all that attention and affection you denied him or her. In return, all your child has to do is comply with my sexual wishes. I cannot be stopped either. Your pride that your child could not be molested, your unconcern that your neighbor's child might be molested, your ignorance about how I operate, your lack of interest to find out makes it so easy for me and other children like me to prey on your children." So this just takes volume about, you know, they're masters at their work. They're quite kind. They know how to manipulate. So something to watch. So this is kind of this affection lure that many predators will use, kind of preying on this basic emotion of children. I wanted to say a few things to the fathers that are here. It's very important, especially for the men. The women, you know, I think, you know, we're more of a staple with this, but it's very important the way you hug and you hold your children all the time. That appropriate hug that you hold, that you give them, you know, reading books on the couch, or, you know, the cuddling that you do, that's all appropriate. That's a template for your children of appropriate affection. So when something happens that's not, they can't always verbalize it because they're young, but something goes off. My father doesn't do that. That's never been done to me before. So it's almost like you're forming this foundation for them of appropriate hugs in appropriate ways. Again, it's important for the women too, but really we find it's really important for the men to do that. And then if something happens, there's a story of a woman who was telling us that she did that. She remembers quite clearly this happening because she had affection from her father, appropriate affection from her father, but her grandfather would hold her inappropriately. He'd hold her on his lap and like keep her on his lap and kind of twist her on his lap in certain ways. So she knew, you know, right away. She's like, this is odd, this is strange. So it's really important to have that affection. All right, another lure is the bribery lure. What still works with kids? It's unbelievable. What are the bribes? Candy, money. It's amazing, you know, all this. And can you help me find my dog? Because they're preying on that innocence of the kids. So bribery, that's an easy one. Gifts. If your kids are asked to keep a gift a secret, you have to tell. If someone tells you, I'm going to give you a gift and it's a secret, that's a red flag for them to tell. All right, the assistance lure. Let me give you this. I'm giving you an example of this. This is called the assistance lure. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, an 11-year-old girl was asked directions to a nearby school, which she gave. Minutes later, the man returned to thank her, and he offered to read her palm. When the young girl held out her hand, he attempted to yank her into the car. The girl broke free, and she ran to safety. So think how smart that man was. He first asked her for directions, saw that she was alone, then came back. So they're quite, they're predators, so they're looking for prey. So again, she had the skill, when someone stops you in the car, get away from the car. Don't go to the car, step back from the car. So I'm not reading you all of the pieces here, I'm just highlighting a few. Under the assistance lure, C, I want to highlight C. This is such an important thing to teach our kids, and this is easy to teach them. Safe people do not ask children for help. If I'm lost, I need directions, I'm not going to ask the 4-year-old. If I can't find my beloved dog, I'm not going to ask the 6-year-old. So if, you know, adults don't ask children for help when they need this kind of help. So C says, explain and reinforce the fact that adults in need of help do not ask children to help them. They ask other adults to help them. Strangers should not be asking you for help or to go with them. Okay, the next one is the authority lure. I want to read you a piece from here. So this book gives you, it's really for kids, so it gives you a picture. It gives you a lure, some are positive, but some don't work out so good. It gives an explanation of the lure. It tells the kids what to do and gives them skills. So you would probably do one at a time over time. It's probably something you wouldn't read the whole time. All right, so this is page 25. All right, this is called the authority lure. Kenneth Robert Stanton, the first child molester to appear on the FBI's most wanted list, he scoured the neighborhood in the South searching for girls who were home alone. Stanton gained access to the children's home by flashing a phony badge and claiming to be with the health or the water department. Once inside, Stanton swiftly blindfolded and sexually assaulted the young girls. Stanton was apprehended after being featured on the television show Unsolved Mysteries. So he's just kind of dressed in a uniform, and he used that kind of authority lure. That I'm going to, you need to listen to me. Has anyone seen Mystic, what's that movie? Mystic River. Does anyone remember the beginning?
I remember that when you mentioned that.
I used to use that clip in this talk, but we lost access to it. So the guy gets out of the car, he's got a belt on, he's just got handcuffs. Regular old handcuffs, but the kids see the handcuffs, so they think he's like an undercover police, and one of the boys goes with them. And that's a common lure. It's called the authority lure that's used. So again, you know, it's important to read all of these, but I just want to highlight D, which is authority figures in your life do not ask you to do things that are against the law. So an authority figure is not going to scare you. It's not going to ask you to do things against the law. So again, I practiced this one with my kids. I had left them at a bowling alley. They're with their cousin. The two boys, and I left them for a minute. I was just walking across. Before I left, I said to them, so what if someone comes over here and says, your mother said to come with me. Your mother's been in a car accident. Come with me. What would you guys do? Like, we're not going to go. So it's that practicing with them. You don't go. Now, in a worst case scenario, say my husband and I got into a car accident and we're like half dead at a hospital, worst case scenario, we would, you know, my sister would go, or, you know, you're not going to send this strange person to go pick up your kids. So, you know, just help them think through the whole thing. All right, the ego fame lure. This one is actually pretty popular with older kids. It gets used a lot. I'll give you an example of this one. This is the ego fame lure. 11-year-old Allison Parrott, a Toronto track star, was excited when a man claiming to be a photographer with the local paper called requesting a photo session with her. She excitedly called her mother, who gave Allison permission to meet the reporter at the Varsity Stadium. Allison's lifeless body was found in a park 2 days later. She'd been sexually assaulted and strangled. But she called her mother, but it wasn't checked. One day I was with some friends, and there was a mom, and we were kind of all standing around each other, and the mother took a phone call, and her daughter and her daughter's friend were at the mall, and they were at one of those kiosks, and both the girls, very pretty, you know, attractive 14-year-old girls, and I guess someone at the kiosk wanted to take their picture, and wanted to take their phone numbers, and wanted to know if they would go with them, and the mother was actually debating it, and I didn't know this mom too much, and I'm thinking to myself, they are very pretty, but what are the chances? It's like 8:30 at night, and this man just particularly needs these two to go with him and to help him. Like, if you really feel this is important, then take his business card, call him the next day. You know, you're not gonna go through with that. It's not a safe thing to do. Yeah, I'm constantly amazed. Sometimes the parents' reaction. I had given this talk at Pfizer in Groton. So I was in the room with what the world would call very intelligent people, like PhDs, doctors, you know, all these really, really people with lots of academic degrees. I was just amazed at some of the questions. One woman had said to me that her daughter, there's a bus driver, an older bus driver, and he changed her stop so that she would be last. And he gives her all these little prizes and these little treats all the time. And her daughter does not like him at all. And she's like, well, he's a grandfather-y type, and he's been a bus driver for years, and everybody likes him. But she had enough signs to investigate it. And if he was innocent, that would come through. But there was enough there, you know, to have, like, why would he change her bus stop? So that she would be the last one on the bus. And again, the daughter didn't like him at all. Okay, so ego fame lure, the emergency lure. I think we talked enough about the emergency lure. That's when they're trying to confuse and worry your child, so they use this kind of emergency. I love all of these, but E is my favorite one here. The bottom one says, make a commitment to your child. I will never send anyone you do not know to pick you up at school or anywhere else without telling you about it ahead of time. If anyone you did not expect ever says, your mother or father sent me, do not go with that person. So you can teach that to your child as soon as you're picking them up, wherever that situation is. I was going to read you that one too. Okay, here's an emergency lure that worked out great. This little girl had some good skills here. Okay. While I was teaching child lures in a Midwest elementary school, a resourceful 8-year-old girl told me that once, when she was walking home from school, a man in a car pulled up alongside her. He told her that her mother had fallen very ill and had to be taken to the hospital right now. Your mother asked me to bring you to the hospital. Quick, quick, get in the car, I'll take you there. Instead, the little girl ran all the way home. When she burst into the kitchen, there was her mother, safe and sound, cooking dinner. So what an impact for this girl, and what she had some good skills. She knew just what to do. All right, the next one is the fun and games lure. And again, I like A on this one. If during the course of any game an adult, even one you know or admire, that's the important thing, even one you know and admire, or another child touches any part of your body, the part's covered by a bathing suit, you demand that person to stop. And then you tell a parent or the trusted adult. Sometimes the predator will start with fun, tickling, joking, and then it escalates into something more. So sometimes it's a plan. If a predator has their eye on someone, they'll take the time to work on this situation if they see that they can have the situation. The hero lure. Some of the molesters, they set out to be a hero in the victim's estimation, someone they look up to. That's a hard one for kids, to go against someone that they really look up to. But again, if adults should not ask you to do anything inappropriate, touching any parts of your body covered by a bathing suit. So can you see some of the patterns emerging already in the rules that you're teaching your kids? So the more you get familiar, you just keep repeating those same, worded the same way. Just keep repeating it, and they will. I promise you, they'll get it. Yes.
With teenage girls, like 13, 14 years old, do you think you should go over these like you are teaching them, or you think they can read these?
I think in that age group, I would get this book. You can get this book for like $5 on one of those, like I say, but just watch the shipping, $5 for the book, $45 for the shipping. And this book goes over every lure, and it's better. It's better than my list. That's just kind of a list to get you interested.
You think you should let them read it?
Well, you do this. This book is designed to be with your child. Anything in shade, they read.
Oh.
And then you read the rest of the part with them. And then here's a picture for them. And then there's a little story. You read the story with them.
So you still should go over with them?
Every single one of them, I would, over time. Yep. There's a part for parents. There's tips. Now, so I'll be doing this with my son now that he's 13, but we've talked so much about it, and this is where you'll get that good feeling, like, okay, I've talked about it, because he should know some of this stuff already. And again, you repeat some of the stuff. Adults don't ask children for help. If anyone tries to touch the parts of your body, cover with, it's over and over, and it's repeated. So yeah, with older children, I would go over this book. And the age you think is appropriate. Not the little one. This is too scary for the little ones, because he does tell scary stories. Okay. Did anyone else have a question? Okay. This is the job lure. This will show you the creativity and the patience of an abductor. This is John Wayne Gacy. Remember John Wayne Gacy? Okay. So while performing various odd jobs, John Wayne Gacy approached young men to ask if they were interested in working with him. Interviews were arranged at his home. Youngsters who brought parents along were told the position had been filled. Then he bid them farewell. Young men who came along alone were handcuffed, tortured, and murdered. 33 young men met the same tragic fate of Gacy's hands. This is a plan. This guy waited and had a plan for it. And that's called the job lure. Your kids have got to check in with you, so you know where they are, you know where their jobs are. And as they get older, and as if they go around the neighborhood for jobs, they just have to check in with you. You have to escort children to job interviews when they're 16. They're still young. Again, this gives you really nice idea, 4 really excellent ideas for this job lure. Name recognition lure. This is when an offender reads the name on a book bag or reads the name on a shirt and says, "Hey, Deborah," as if we're good old buddies. And that fools children when their name is called. It's like an instant familiarity that's not there. So don't go with someone just because they know your name. If your intuition tells you not to go, then don't go. Make sure your parents always know who you're with. Avoid giving your children clothing. I think my son's backpack must have his name on it. So, use your judgment with that. He's older now. It didn't bother me so much as like a younger child. But if you look around, names are all over. They're on their shirts, they're on their back, they're on their backpacks. That's called the name recognition lure. The playmate lure. That's when a molester encourages or coerces their victims in an unsuspected setting. So I think there's someone in our neighborhood. It was like a single guy, and he had all these videos, and it was a great place to hang out and watch videos. And he kind of they were just playing videos for months and months, so it was okay. But then it switched to some like soft porn. He was like showing them some soft porn, and back to videos. So he kind of was like setting up, and luckily this was stopped before it got far. But this is kind of that playmate, we're friends, buddies. again, you know, an adult man that wants to be a friend with your 6-year-old, that's a red flag. So it's, you know, being aware of things like that. There's the pornography lure, a threats and weapons lure where someone says, I will kill you, I will kill your mother, I will hurt you. That really scares kids. The drug lure, the computer online lures, that's its own 1-hour seminar for online safety. You probably know the basic, what do we teach our kids for the basic online? What are you telling your kids now? Just the basic online stuff. What kind of things are you telling your kids now?
Don't share any personal information.
No name, no, not where you live, not town. Watch those chats. If your intuition, if someone is asking you personal information, make sure you tell your parents. The computer should be in a public place. We should not have computers in kids' bedrooms where it's more private. It should be in a place that you can easily look over. So no matter if they beg you, don't put the computer in the bedroom. It should be in like a public part of your home. Never agree to meet an online friend. You know, you just, and there are parent controls for the computer things. All right, let me just make sure I went over one more thing I was going to tell you. Again, so just to like summarize, start teaching early and use books, use the concrete, move to the abstract, use the same phrases over and over, a bad secret, good secret, fake love, real love. These are the constant themes of your conversation. Get the older siblings in on it, the cousins, so it's a conversation that you have. Kids are older, take the current events and integrate those into your everyday conversation. Your private parts are covered parts covered by a bathing suit. Even a doctor, sometimes a doctor will have to touch the private parts, but you're there. So if someone says they're a doctor, you're not there, there's your red flag. Your kids are not going to the doctors by themselves. And even if they're older, you're right there in you're in the waiting room. So just you have to help our kids think out the logic of it. The seemingly logic to us, it's not to them. Like sometimes we're like, well, duh, why would you do that? It's because they're children, so you have to walk it through or talk it through with them. I tell my kids things and I see their face like, oh, well, I never thought about that. And to me, I'm thinking, how could you not think about that? They don't think about it because they're limited in their experience. So I hope that you feel that you don't leave here afraid, that you just want to lock your kids into the house. We're not sitting pray waiting for someone to pray on your kids. There's things you can do. It really, really works, but it's a constant dialogue. So does anyone have any other questions or thoughts about? Okay.
I have an article about it's not safe to play hide and seek with kids. It has like a psychological effect.
Yeah. I think it's okay. I mean, you're not playing psycho hide and seek. You're playing your basic average hide and seek. Kids love hide and seek. They love rescue. They love that stuff. And again, you're teaching positive, fun play. So that would trump any of that fear. Stick to those basic things. Hide and seek someone they don't know. And if your body parts were touched. So again, just go back to that foundation. And don't forget, most people are good. Most people will help you. And that is true. Most people are going to help you. How many of you, I've gotten tons of help from strangers. I remember recently my car had, there was like the part where the radio was kind of smoking. So I pulled the car over and I thought it was okay, but it was kind of smelling bad and I didn't have a cell phone on me and I was thinking, I'm not sure what I should do. It was getting kind of dark and I'm going to be stereotypical, but this totally what you would stereotype a Harley Davidson bike rider stopped. And the beard, whatever the stereotype is that you would say. But you know what? I wasn't afraid one bit. I could tell by his face. He had a phone. He's like, do you need some help? He kept like at a distance. Not worried at all about him. The instinct was totally, use the phone, got some help, it was fine. So, use your instincts and, use use your good judgment. Most people want to help you. I'm sure all of you, like if I ask the men in here, so let me ask the men, when was the last time that you were afraid in a parking lot or when you looked behind you because you thought someone might be following you or you were scared. Can you guys remember the last time?
For me, it's all the time. I'm always
All right, let me ask the women. When is the last time you looked behind your shoulder? When is the last time you felt a little uneasy when it was dark? Just the other day for me. Yeah, so there is, you know, so and if your instincts are telling you something, this book is really great. He tells you story after story of women that do great things because of that lioness instinct that they have. There's a woman in here who, she's at her house, and it's in the woods, and a red truck pulls up, and the guy gets out and asks for directions. She has no idea what he's talking about, so she says, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't tell you how to get there. But he doesn't leave. He keeps coming forward. She takes her toddler under her hip. She fights him, kicks him, and beats him till he leaves. And they're asked after, how do you do that? She goes, I don't know. She goes, but he was not getting in the house with me. So there's constant story after story. There's one mom, this guy's following them in the theater. He kind of eyed them in the theater, and he had overheard that they were going to be separated from the group, and they were going to walk to the car, and they were separated from the group. And again, they tell you all about it in the book. So this guy's following them. So the mother, she can feel, her instincts are telling her they're in danger. So they start walking fast. So he starts walking fast, and they jump into the car, and he's like pulling her daughter's leg, like trying to get the car. So she has her keys, and she's like, for a second, like, I'm going to poke his eyes out, but I'm thinking, oh, I don't really want to hurt him. And then she's like, well, he's trying to hurt us. So she like jabs the keys into his face. So they make you feel like, you know, I don't think I'm a particularly strong person, but I'm not going down without a fight. I mean, you're not going to let someone take your child. You know, there's stories of fighting and kicking, and so you have to, you know, it's like a lioness and the cubs. You are not going to just let someone take your child. So he really builds up that instinct, and the fathers have the protective instinct too. So I hope that you feel prepared and not paranoid, but it's a real concern. Okay, we're all done. All right. If anyone has any other questions?
Quick question.
Yes.
I haven't visited any websites that list sex offenders.
Yes.
Reliable?
They are. Again, you know, you have to look at them. Like I told you the story of the 21-year-old and the 15-year-old. Did I tell you that? Did you were here for that? There's a sex offender in our neighborhood, but it was a 20-year-old man with a 15-year-old girl. So unfortunately, they don't tell you the whole story. So I would look at that. I would know where they lived. I teach my kids precautions, but I don't know how much detail you're going to get, or if it's a real concern for you. So I don't know if that, you know.
I went to one, a friend of mine is in the army, and she said me, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
It says every 8 miles there's a sexual predator.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it's less than 8.
I know.
I feel like it's, yeah.
I know. But remember, they're looking for the predator's looking for access. Like say they notice at your house that you're just around. They're not looking for you. You're making it too hard for them. They want secrecy, they want privacy, they want access. So a lot of you aren't going to, just by your being here tonight, I would have to say that you probably aren't going to be a good candidate for them to look for. When I heard predators, I'm like, oh, why do they use the word predator? That's like an animal. Well, that's what it is. They are, yeah, they're waiting. They don't care which one it is. They're not looking for that boy. They're looking for a boy. They're not looking for that girl. I mean, they're looking for any girl. So they just wait. And they're very patient. So they're looking for that. And of course, kids who have emotional issues. I don't know if any parents have children with special needs. When you have a child with special needs, it's hard. It's very hard.
Especially my son, he's so friendly.
Yeah.
People he don't know.
I know.
More challenging.
Yes, it's very challenging. And there's not a lot of literature on this. I looked to my friends who have children with special needs, and I was reading about it. There's not a lot of literature. But the theme that I did find in the literature is that some of the kids, they can still surprise you with instinct. So go with instinct, and then you have to use your instinct on who cares for your children.